better to be late than be unprepared, okay? Yes. A little bit of fair warning. I'm probably going to rush because I don't have as many screenshots from episode 2. Woke up late today. And also, I was in very, very... Last night was strange. I did my stream and then the aftershock of episode 4 for not good reasons. And I had to... For obvious reasons I'll get into. But the thing about episode 4, before I start, is bad. Like, okay, I had to look up the show writers for it. Basically, it's the problem of a rushed plot. Okay. There's a rushed plot. And they try to solve the Brotherhood problem, the Vault problem, introduce another Vault plot hole. Then actually we do get the glimpse of Vegas. But we also get a revelation about it was Quintus that saved Maximus. Now, this is lost amongst the... I hate to say it, the speculation was correct for episode 4, and it's potentially the worst. Now, be fair warned, as much as I like this show, I do have to go after the writing. Because if you do boil down the Brotherhood to base violence, that they would have turned. Because the speculation, as I said, for episode 4, judging from the trailers, is I guess the trailers pretty much tell all. Fuck. I didn't want it to be right because I'm like, you should have gapped this out between 2 episodes. I'm also going to be bumping up against doing multi-stream than doing a game stream tonight, hopefully. I'm going to try, at least the other. That they're also under the assumption, I guess, that and then they all do it. So he's left with it. The screenshot from the trailer happens. Now, the fun fact about it is, while the revelations are interesting, if the Brotherhood plays out similar to how... Look, cleaning up 3 factions in 2 episodes, I'm going to put is a very rushed plot. You're cleaning up... Episode 4 also cleans up the NCR, saying they're moving along. Episode 3 pretty much cleans up and maybe resets the Legion to status quo to they don't kill each other. Or they don't kill the last of the NCR, which turns out to be 2 Rangers and a Sergeant. At least. But then again, I think the show has scale problems. It's kind of like 40K trying to explain But I guess we also know why Maximus has the NCR helmet armor. Why he develops the, it looks like NCR power armor, which everyone was pissed off about in the trailer. But before I get into that, in the last of these show. And you're going to leave Brotherhood to fight over Area 51. Take what's there and then whatever. Because the relic is gone. Because they don't want to piss off the East Coast Brotherhood. Now, personally, I find we get an interesting revelation. I guess there's parts that save it, but the show did not need any more plot holes. Because I would have left the Volt part out to deal with sorry, sir. I need an exact moment. I'm trying to find an exact moment in an episode question right now. The idea itself, consider why this is working. Now you have the, before I get into the normal, be warned I will be going over spoilers. And I may have to get some of the screenshots on episode 4 later on and do more when I do a year end. But I'm pretty sure the revelation about Stephanie is going to come back up. But it's very much hinted at the deep lore Fallout. Hoping it didn't happen, or because they kept with a keepsake, because it harkens back to a... So episode 4, they tried to cram a lot of either secrets and lying into. But you can also, if it says it's cultural consequences. But then again, it's a very difference between episode 3 and episode 4. Yeah, I found it. I should have kept the timestamps when I was watching this on Amazon. And there we go. So you never do work without exactly finding it. Because I know the timestamps on the other stuff, so... But it also would explain why Stephanie is such a terrible person. And I'm going to say that when I get into that. And Judo knows what I'm talking about. Now, I'm pretty sure. See, if we go off the speculation why Vault 32 initially had issues, because there's a lot of stuff from season 1 they left out to dry. But also in episode 4, I don't like this strip. That is a problem. So there's an issue with the strip. But that is going to be part of that. It's not as much of a rant or a complaint. Okay. The issue with the strip is if that is the first sign we get with the strip, I had a more of a fear of what they were going to do with the strip, because the strip itself is very vital to Vegas, but I'm not a Puritan about it. Yeah, so it's better not to say it, because the idea I have actually seen the there is character development, but see, there's an exact moment, because it's one of the few, because I need like two. Because now, do I like in episode 4, before I get to it, the butchering of the lore? It's a half of a butcher, but it is also a potential issue. Now, there is funny, by the way. Here we are. I shall begin after I get this last one. I'm gonna have to make a mental note to go through episode 4 again. So, because it does end abruptly after the Death Club. Worst kept secret ever. They also did the sin of moving Freeside. They and someone, for practical reasons, is beginning to. I'm starting to doubt writers, because the director of this episode, though the theme is good at the end, it's, trust me, you would know it. I guess it's the song "He's a Demon." You know it. But if episode 4, I've seen the take upon episode 4 is consequences, totality, and how you deal with them. That's the shot I needed. Now, loosely, if we're going off anything, propaganda and see, we now know the fate of pretty much everything except Bitter Springs at this point. Effectively. We now know the fate of everything except for Bitter Springs. At least how the show's going to present it. You know? And then I'm going to sigh, because as a person who, look, New Vegas is definitely not close to my heart, but it deserves to be killed off in a better mannerism than they're doing it. Because a lot of the lore wouldn't have been hard, I think, to follow up. Now, that's why I said I still need to start on time. Now, the issue itself is that I will schedule the other one to my own detriment. Multi's going to go start at some point after. Now, again, episode 4, I'm going to be very, very honest. If the theatrical reason they chose to do episode 4 the way they did it, if they chose, again, there's a rant, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of research into it with episode 4. Because supposedly the screenwriter has a good lineage. It's bad. If her lineage is what she's supposed to have, she should do better. Anyways, I begin with episode 3. Episode 3 is called The Profligate. I may butcher that. Yeah. The Profligate. This is the episode that deals with... Actually, it gets really fucked up. Because Lucy... This is where we get the explanation of the Legion. Now, officially, this is the story of the Legion according to the show, not the games. The games are going to be very different than the show, and I fully expected they don't take the show one for one. All right? Now, when I was talking about last week on what they are doing with episode 3, I showed the episode she got captured. Now, this is her being brought in. Now, apparently the main camp is not on a hill. So, now, here's the thing about this. If you look at the part to where I'll get these up first because I'm going to show. Again, it's a good episode. It's like you said, compared to the goddamn episode that follows. This is basically, she enters the camp. You see the slaves. You see it. Now, I mean, they hinted the dynamite kind of twice. Now, did the NCR, did the Powder Gang join get folded into the Legion? Kind of where else would you get dynamite? The Powder Gang would be in the prison. No, that's speculation. But, now that's McCulkin's character. Now, assuming Lanius died, okay, let's be honest. If Lanius died, not Lanius died, Kaisar died, The inner camp is perfect. When I said the inner camp is absolutely perfect, this is what the inner camp looks like. Except if the camps were divided, there would be another tent on the other side. This is one for one. Now, if you didn't mention it, so the slave that she brought back is killed because she lost her legionnaire. Now, Oxford brought this up, and I was thinking about it in the episode as well. Why would she go back to the Legion knowing she's going to be killed? Okay. It's retarded, but it makes sense. It's the only home she had versus dying in the waste because she had no idea. I'm assuming that she's never seen anything outside of the West. So she doesn't know anything about basically the New Vegas or the area there. Now, Lucy herself, that's what I say, Lannius. Now, it does beg why Lannius is not head of the Legion. Now, it's implied that there is a civil war. Now, granted, it's not straight up, but you can kind of tell by the two camps. Now, the interesting part is about they still carry over. Well, they talk about, scheduling her prima noctis. Now, this is what McCulkin's character looks like. Now, arguably, people have said the show's not lore accurate. The model we have for Lannius is Lannius' clean cut. Most legionnaires are clean despite being raiders. It's always been, and then the idiots on Twitter argue about it with the models. They feel themselves civilized. Now, the helmet is one for one. The armor is one for one. The attitude is one for one. Now, McCulkin supposedly researched through YouTube on lore of the Legion, which is fine. Lucy played the games. The actress who did her, Walter Goggins, just leaves it to the writers. Maximus's character probably is off because he did no research for the role, but it works. McLean's character kind of works because his story is tied in, but it's also carried by the weight of him being the actor. Now, it's kind of potentially implied that one of the Kaisars left. Now, it's the top. She lectures them about Roman Latin is different than European Latin. Now, she trades information because this scene is what the Legion is. Now, again, there is something that Lucy is explaining. I don't know, I should have it in here, but as she, I guess the prima noctis fails, she goes, oh, the cousin stuff. He goes, oh, that's only for virgins, the prima noctis. Okay, sure. Like, that's. Then she refuses, so she gets, well, technically hung on the cross, but leading to this, Lanius's character's having it. Goes, yes, but what you don't understand, we are at war. She goes, yeah, I'm a great diplomat. And again, this is why I said sometimes she's stupid and she's not left for dead. Honestly, if it weren't for the ghoul, she would have probably died 10 times over. But she should be referring to the ghoul more often than she needs to, but details. The idea of the ghoul is a walking plot device. He is the past and the present. He is the storyteller. So, well, he's the storyteller slash stored knowledge of the vault. He is the stored lineage of the show. Walter Goggins that's his purpose. Now, there's an interesting line between Lanius and basically Lucy. This land is America. We don't crucify people. She goes, yes. Maps are drawn by the dead. Now, the interesting parts is she makes this case is America. The Legion is a product of post the war and civilization. So it's the idea this is the actual Legion. They don't see themselves as evil. And they also view the maps as the land of the dead. And it's the sign of America's failure. And that is teachings brought down from the guy who founded the Legion. Which I'll show his body. His body gets shown. He wrote down the name of his successor. Now, the irony is you'll find he still has the power fist. But there's also the scene. She does throw logic at him. She go have the conversation about evil. She go to the Legion, they don't know what's good or evil. And she goes, yeah, I've seen 15 plus movies, and usually if you don't think you're the bad guy, you're the bad guy. His response is, I'm not evil. To me, I am good. Something like along that line. The Legion sees himself as good, not evil. Which I think is very poetic. There's also a line as well. You may think we are evil, but it's like the only bastion, the only thing that is respected is strength. The dialogue between some of the characters is really good. It actually implies that Lucy has to learn the lesson, and it's going to be seen if she learns the lesson from this. that it's sorry, still getting over being cold or flu. But it's implied that she's getting explained to that the person is bad. The person, she's doing the video game logic of the stupid logic. She can always talk out problems. Doesn't work. But at the same time, she talks about strength. Though her speech persuasions, the joke is, they always fail. You know, she doesn't have the charisma, to back it up, basically. She doesn't do the NPC thing that you invest in charisma so you can barter past people. But it's the state of it. The body in the Legion is, this is Kaisar's body. They go, yes. The name of his successor is in his divine pocket. Now it's I am twice, but that is also his power fist. But the only reason every time they try to go for it, they get shot at. Hello, how are you, ma'am? This is the part where they do explain there is two Kaisers. The ghoul knows of them. But this answers a lot. They go with the idea he died of cancer. Now, I just say that's bad prop work, that his head seems deformed, but it's not really deformed because, to be honest, there's another skeleton they show that has a similar deforming. Some person doesn't know how to lay it out. Brain cancer wouldn't warp the brain that much, I believe. But that's where it is. The key is, and if you're following up the ghoul's plot point. Now, this is going to be the explanation of the Legion we get. I believe that McCulkin's character takes over as the Kaiser after everything is said and done. So, after this, we pick up to the ghoul. The ghoul's digging himself up because he's talking to the dog because he has a reflection. Walter Goggins has said this season is the season well, people said he dies at the end of this season. I don't buy it. I think it's definitely the death of him as the ghoul, or he rediscovers his humanity. Because there's a little bit in episode 4 of what happens on that. He's digging out. Now, this didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to Oxhorn. And Oxhorn's usually regarded, if you ever see Fallout, he's digging out what's left of a stinger or a pus wound. And he's talking about the ship of Theseus. When you start removing planks, eventually it's not a ship. Now, it's implying Dogmeat has intelligence. Well, if the story of Dogmeat is a genetically engineered dog, every game has one. It is just the idea that every dog that descended from the original Dogmeat carries the genetic memories. Or it's just Dogmeat. So he realizes that. Now, the interesting part is after he digs out the thing and heals. The ghoul finds her crucified. He left her with the golden rule. Oh, she left him with the golden rule. She comes to realize, well, Lucy, what have you gotten yourself into? Basically. Then, after explaining the ship of Theseus, like, the ghoul goes to first Camp Golf. Okay, so Camp Golf. We actually get to see it. See, hence I said Camp Golf. You will know of that if you ever played the game. Camp Golf. Camp Golf is basically where they were that's why I said it's really weird. Show has scale problems. Basically. Camp Golf. Let me see. I know I have it. In Camp Golf, there's Victor. Now, this is a dialogue that hints that potentially what we were going to see in Vegas, according to the writers. Now, I personally have a theory about the writers. I talked to a friend about this when he came across. I think the showrunners do hate the NCR. That's actually, or they didn't know how to write the NCR, and they had been left out of the show in its entirety. They don't know how to write the NCR. They did not know how to write the NCR post New Vegas. I mean, they do a decent job with the Legion. Legion breaks into Civil War. You see the plot holes with... They know how to write the characters. They didn't know how to write the factions. But Victor also has implied that House is gone. But as I said, we know this isn't true. We know House is in Lucky 38. There is literally a thing from the trailer that hasn't happened. I suspect that's going to be episode 5. Where he goes, "Hello, Mr. Howard." Now, if that is the case, that's episode 5, judging by the pace of episode 4. But it's him also implying something horrible happened to Vegas. That's why it gave me the clue about episode 4. Now, this is where he gets the clue for the NCR Rangers on the hill. Come to find out in episode 4, there's actually 2 Rangers and a sergeant. They have been cut off from the rest of the NCR for 10 years. So that would be post the nuking of Shady Sands. And there was potentially a Legion conflict. Now, the question is, are we going to get Hoover Dam? How they say the second battle of Hoover Dam went is how I think that's going to go. we're going to kind of have a picture of New Vegas. But I am leaning towards Yes Man. But Yes Man doesn't make sense. It might make sense if House was cut off from control in New Vegas. That would also explain why the Securitrons are in disarray. But to be honest, also a Deathclaw on the Strip may explain it as well. And come to think of it, episode 4, they fucked with the Strip entrance. I know why. Because they did it the way you come in from the freeway, which would be by the gunners or the people that the gun manufacturer side. I swear. It would help them if they ever played the game. You might fuck up not the scenery. Okay. Thought about that. The trailers and everything, that's the side of the gun manufacturer area that has the arms dealer. I'll get to that when I get to that part. But the thing is, there's also a hint that he used to believe. See, so the idea that the ghoul's gone between California to Vegas, to other places, is the key in the episode. Now, the thing about this is, I was wrong about him selling out. But Victor has been in Camp Golf since the NCR abandoned it. Because Camp Golf looks like they quickly left it. Now, that's either to the own detriment of the writers who don't or can't write what happened to them. Because you would have to explain if this is the NCR primer. Because Camp Golf is entirely abandoned. I think if Camp Golf is abandoned, I'm going to assume Bitter Springs is abandoned as well. I'm assuming Helios 1 is abandoned. Because they went past Helios 1. Helios 1 showed no signs of NCR either. This is what Camp Golf looks like. Camp Golf was left in a hurry. Which lends my credence to Camp Golf. Whatever happened to the NCR pulled out of Vegas. Now, in reality, and this is the if, there is going to be NCR that come in towards the end, and somehow the remainder of the NCR scooched into the Strip, but not the Strip. They're not in the Strip. They're in the other parts. If the remnants scooched into Vegas, free side of Vegas, I guess now, I would have said they were in the Strip, but knowing there's a giant ass fucking Deathclaw over there, I have a high doubt. So they're in the city of New Vegas, not in Freeside. They no longer have an embassy, so any remnants of them would be in the inners of Freeside and of the city where their stuff is. But it would also imply why they haven't rooted out the Deathclaw. Because let's be clear, if they only have conventional, how are they going to take out the Deathclaw? Technically, the Deathclaw's skull was shown at the end of season 1. I get ahead of myself. Now, the ghoul walks back to the camp. This is days. Like, after. They don't really say. They're not in there. So she's been left there for a couple of days. She's starting to hallucinate. Now, I thought the ghouls. Now, this is the idea. There's a scene. I'm going to get this because there's something in the past with Cooper Howard that makes sense. The ghoul's walking through the camp. He sees the dynamite. That plays a role later on. And Lucy sees it. Now, Lucy sells out the location. To save Lucy, the ghoul sells out the last of the NCR. He doesn't know. They don't know, I guess. All the two guys and the woman up there. And Lucy gets saved. And then there's a scene. He leaves with her. She gets cut down. And then he gets to the... See, there's something in the show they do. And I've seen it a couple of times, and I think it's just the screening shots. It's kind of like if you wait a second, because there's an out of place order. And I don't know why there's an out of place order. And I don't know, I think it's left intentional that you are supposed to draw on it. Because I was not sure about the thing. Because there's this scene. Like, cinematography is ultimately good. So there's this... So the ghoul leaves with Lucy, and he goes, she's like, what have you done? And he goes, something potentially very stupid. But I hope it's not. She's like, it's like the discussion about what's the outcome. He goes, I hope something not very stupid. Because remember, he armed them with the location of the NCR. Now, he flicked the lighter, remote detonated the dynamite, which sets them back to infighting. Which, I mean, it could potentially also invite that he unites the Legion. So the Legion become the main force. But it is also implied that the Legion ending never happened either. That the Legion never made it to Vegas. The NCR and the Legion fought. There was another battle between the Legion and the NCR. I'm assuming that was the Battle of Hoover Dam. Because the camp has the guns in it. There's the perimeter guns, the howitzers, not the big ones, the smaller ones. And it's interesting. So that's how they leave off the Legion. And I guess I was like, well, shit, there goes the NCR. Because it's literally implied there's 2 to 3 maybe 4 NCR people left in all of Vegas that we know of. That's why I said the show starts to develop a scale problem. There's a massive scale problem in the show, and it's the storytelling they're trying to tell. They just don't know how to tell the stories of the factions. And that's why I said cinematography is good, but it doesn't. Now, the subplot here is, this is why I say this might be important later on. Who's the actual successor? Now, in reality, you could actually go off the idea if he says he's the only true Kaiser. But the reason why the ghoul doesn't get tortured or killed is because he shows authority. Because the funny part is, he walks to the ghoul camp. The ghoul walks in. Yes, he goes, I know you're not a fan of the linear progression. The Legion is not a fan of the linear progression of time. And how they pronounce their V's and their light C's. And he salutes them and uses their greeting. Now, that goes a long way. But he also goes, I don't think the Legion's against trading. So, again, trading information is probably, because this is one of them. If this is the faction, it could imply one was Lanius, but I don't think one was Lanius. I think they're saying Lanius got wiped out, or Lanius is not in the show at all. Now, the show does end where I was like, because this is when he flicks the lighter as he's leaving and he goes off, which I'm implying if the ghoul has explosive ability, he sets a remote detonator. There's a joke of there is in the Brotherhood plot, if I get Thaddeus's plot. So Cooper's plot goes, he's supposed to go to a ceremony for Charlie. I'll get these 3 brought up. Now, I did not know that these actors, I guess, yes, they're very good friends. And the guy who is House is extremely good. That's why I said the acting. See, like, he's acting about Charlie, because Charlie's getting an awards ceremony for his operation, well, whatever he did in Alaska. Now, in Alaska, I guess we're going to get an explanation, especially after episode 4. We're owed one. Again, episode 4 is a special version of retarded. I hate that episode. It pained me to watch it twice. I actually got through 1.5, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll finish it another day. There isn't much. It hurts. Just but again, that might be the low point of the season. They might be just trying to look. Every episode should be an hour. Shaving off 5 minutes and just have 5 more minutes of dialogue would be actually beneficial. See, this episode is 49 minutes. It's barely over 50. So that implies it's about 40 something minutes of storytelling. And the rest is either the beginning or the recap. Now, there's a whole rant I could have eventually on second screening. Um, but second screening is basically the idea of watching on a second-hand device while you're doing something. And I'm really hoping that they keep these moments out of the show. Now, it would not imply you have to watch it, but it hurts the format. Now, unfortunately, I would say that hurts the format for a lot of shows. But that's aside. That's how when you ever see a stupid show that is meant to be watched through a second-hand device or second-hand viewing, as they call it, meaning you watch it as you drive, you watch it as you game, you do it. That would imply why they have the flashbacks at the beginning of shows. Now, functionally, okay. House is explaining Charlie's a bit of a pinko. He is described as the man who knows everything. He knows of Charlie. He knows of Moldiver. He knows of Cooper. He knows of Cooper. Cooper doesn't realize this is House. But he speaks like House. He goes, yes, I know Charlie's a bit of a pinko. That's why this face it causes him to perk up. And then he describes Cooper Howard, American war hero, actor of the silver screen, and a bit of a pinko. Very similar. Now, but he goes, I sympathize. Now, after this, they move in. They go, but he goes, I sympathize with the pinko cause because they don't like the outcomes. But everyone is scrambling for a solution to one problem. When one person is backed, you back a body into the wall, it's interesting how they respond. If you back billions of bodies into a wall, then what happens? Now, this is an analogy for the potential end of the world, being the Great War. House always predicted the Great War. I mean, it's kind of implied that the Great War was going to happen after Anchorage anyways. Because Alaska was the last bastion, supposedly, of oil. Crude oil. So, it hurt China. It knocked China back to the Stone Age. It's implied. This is why I would love to see the explanation of the resource wars. The resource wars is one of the most missed chapters of Fallout. The irony is in Fallout 3, in the Smithsonian, that is the wing that is collapsed. Like, you can go into the past, you can see another one that goes through Anchorage, but you cannot go through the resource wars. Very interesting, by the way. Because the resource wars also implied, you would assume, if uranium was the main power source, that would have started having issues. Hell, in our modern society, we barely have any uranium plants. And if we ever brought them to full power, we would have to do our own expansion of mining for uranium in our modern day. But they've been running on uranium for 100 years, if not more, because ever since the 50s and the 60s, they started running on uranium. Let that sink in. But that's actually why Alaska was the last source of crude oil, potentially, or safe. Also the last source of uranium. So if the Chinese got Alaska, they wouldn't have access to uranium mines. But also the resource crisis is also why U.S. annexed Canada. So take it for what it's worth. But House always knew about the end of the world. He predicted it was going to end. That's why he was trying to get Vegas protected. Because the thing is, Vegas was not a gambling town. Basically. Vegas was not a gambling town. Vegas was a resort town. I mean, arguably it wasn't until the mob, after Bugsy Siegel's, like, they felt and killed him, his casino, where he thought it was they thought it was a failure with money, and he was wasting money, had him killed. Come to find out, mob learned to embrace it. The casinos, the sands, and everybody else. That's when you started seeing it become a gambling hub with, and then later the corporations with the Luxor and all of them. Which it plays on the idea that Vegas was never fully a gambling hub. It's implied it became, but it stayed a resort town. That's why Vegas stays, and New Vegas always looks like a resort town outside of the Strip. But his missile defense system saved it. Arguably, it's kind of like DC supposedly had a similar system. That's why DC is, the DC wasteland is largely intact. Though supposedly they found and said there's about 30 craters all over the place. So, and judging by the bombings of Los Angeles with MIRVs, and at the end of this episode, you actually see one of House's defense silos. They actually show like a render of it. Because understanding Cooper Howard is having to be convinced to kill House. But he doesn't realize he's talking to House right here. This is after the body speech and that. But he gets really mad. Because he still has trauma from the war. He's given a gift of a lighter. This is a lighter he has to this present day. Charlie gives him the speech about saving him from 3 men. And sometimes you don't kill. Yes, every man in this room killed people. But did we kill the right one? That's why I think episode 5, if it deals with the flashback to him going to New Vegas. Actually, this is happens right before he has to go to the meeting at the BFW. The keepsake box, right? Janie's trying to pack Janie's keepsake box. And she's crying. So she might not be the monster that we all think she is. Which, see, that's a weird plot point. Now, you have the other part is the Legion story. I'll get in a second about the map. Here, we have the story. Now, this map has been debunked to a degree, as I said. This is so now that basically I'm not going to go on a rant about the map yet, but I'll do it before. Because the map is a side byproduct. I'm like, okay, so the map is like the chalkboard. And they were going to use it that way. But then that's when people found out it's a different map. It's based on the PoleCaps map from Van Buren. It's fan-made, and they lifted it from a wiki or Reddit. Weird how autists find these things. So, meeting is apparently the alliance has broken down now that the other people are here. Now, I think the choice of the chairs is funny. I guess the chairs up here are... Now, I don't know. Would you sit in Egyptian chairs or what would be classic chairs? Hard to believe. But again, this is Brotherhood. 2,000-year-old wooden chairs, sure. Now, and he ties up and he goes, so the Yosemite elder leaves and says, I don't buy for this religious crap. Because he tells the story of the founding of the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood was founded because he either had to serve his God or serve his government. Now, it's a twisting on the tale of Mariposa. Mariposa, Maxon was sent there, discovered the FEV, killed the scientist in a fit of rage. The Great War happened, and he regretted that decision later on, but I guess Quintus's chapter forgot that lesson. Now, this being said, Maximus only knows violence, and he thinks, why don't we kill him? Brings up a scene here. Because she leaves and goes, just give the relic to the Brotherhood. That explains her betrayal. He goes, well, Elder, why don't we just kill Xander? He goes, and there's the various scribes. He goes, why would I want an opinion? If he goes there. There's the opinion, a blunt opinion. Well, he uses the analogy of the blunt sword. Well, it's kind of what it is. There's the opinion of the sword. If I wanted a sword's opinion, blunt opinion of a sword. And if I needed a sword, I would ask for an opinion of a sword. He doesn't have any diplomatic stature, so he doesn't know that Quintus is trying to negotiate. I mean, I don't know how he would deal with Xander in the first place. The threat of the Commonwealth is pretty much what's going to happen to all the chapters anyways. So he's asked to leave. And he leaves very angrily. Because he gets told to leave the meeting. This is going to get to my part I hate about episode 4. They ask him to leave. And this brings up this here. He goes, yes. He goes, you guys know you have a lot of clerics. He goes, yeah, we have clerics and scribes out east, but they don't hold positions of power. This is because scribes are not meant to hold power. Scribes are not warriors. The Brotherhood is a warrior culture. So, largely, they only promote knights, paladins. Now, what's funny about Xander's armor, when I've looked at it, he actually has the paladin rank on his armor. Very key. And that is an attention to detail. It's a red shield. Now, the thing is, he leaves. He goes, hey, but what? And this is why it's weird. Why does he have? I guess they give him 2 power armors. But that power armor also has motion assist servos in it. But here's the thing. This is advanced T60. T60, I guess, is commonly used. Now, Fallout 4 is what actually said T60 was in abundance. Now, let's take artistic license with that. It goes T45, T51. T51 was largely used in Operation Anchorage because T45 was iffy, and that's talked about at the beginning of episode 4 and shown. Now, T60 was the last model developed, and it may have been in mass production, but smaller qualities. Smaller quantities, I should say, is the word. That is the part where some fans have said it. Now, the only rarer pattern would be XO1. XO1 was originally canceled. Actually, you find one free set of XO1. You find it randomly at high levels, but it's actually implied XO1 is extremely rare, and it would have been the latest. Enclave had some, but they never had enough. But Enclave still, even in Fallout 3, was still using T45. not T60. They might have had some T60, but they also had their own variant called the Hellfire arm. But Harkness doesn't know, so the idea is, sort of a little tight for him. That's the one thing about power armors. They are running on the idea of the power armors of Fallout 76, I swear. Now, the concept of motion assist servos, I guess he knows of it. Now, you remember this scene, because this scene comes up in episode 4. Now, I'll bring up these next. This brings up towards the absolute end of the episode. Now, it's a little bit funny, but the idea is this was the bottling plant where Thaddeus was. Thaddeus was not supposed to be in this season, supposedly, but, he, I guess, filmed it. So, this is a Securitron, so they have one of the broken Securitrons like you see, I think it's in Big Mountain, or one of the other areas, but it clearly is a broken one. But I guess it establishes you cannot break it. Now, he realizes there's one of Gould children. Now, Xander, as I said last time, is of the Brotherhood out east. They don't suffer the abomination. That's super mutants, ghouls, anything. They exterminate it. Any post-war mutations, they don't tolerate. So they were going to gun down Thaddeus and the children. Now, the argument that Thaddeus is not a ghoul is actually the theory because he has a mouth growing on his shoulder. People think he's like Herbert. Now, he divides the children amongst two groups. Thaddeus does this. And I mean, I guess he thought, he's going to get gunned down because he is formerly at the Brotherhood. Now, but this is where he has a speech and he goes, yeah, you're an abomination too. And he's just going to gun them all down. But the episode ends with, this scene ends with Xander getting his head busted in with a powered hammer, a rocket-powered sledgehammer, or the rocket hammer. Kind of ironic. But then he goes, oh, hi, buddy. How are you? And he goes, yeah, I just think I started a war. Now, interesting enough, and I do say, this is the end credit. This is the house defense system. I guess this would be implying we were going to Vegas. That's how we kind of knew. It shows the various silos. Let's say 119. 119, so make it 120. Okay. Yes. Sorry, mental note to myself. So I did the first one. Okay, episode 4. So, episode 4. The episode that gives me, I hate it. So, if you've not caught it, you might want to leave. Okay? Because a lot of people have probably seen 3 by now. So, I have. So it shows we know that the power armor is not perfected. I think this was this. Well, technically, that's the interesting part. They didn't have the circuits there, but you see, like, here. And I had to think back to the dialogue. Because there's actually dialogue in Chinese here. So unless you watch it in subtitles, you're not catching it. So that's Operation Anchorage, or the Alaskan Front. They're trying to almost losing the island. This might be Juneau. See, the war in Alaska is not entirely talked about in the Fallout universe, because if you look off in the distance, you see the airships, basically. I guess the airships are very common. Chinese. Let me see if I have it. I know I clipped it. Cooper saw the Death Claw. Now, all right. This is where I will try. Yeah, I didn't get that screenshot. Well, shit. Okay. That reminds me, I need to get that one for review later on. So, the idea of the Death Claw, he hears it. Now, this implies the Death Claws were in development prior to the war. Now, a little bit of leeway and wiggle room for the writers. The Fallout writers fucked this up too. The Fallout writers were shit about this. Enclave experimented with a lot of stuff. So, like, in Fallout 76, as an example, the Enclave is the reason there's a Scorch virus and Scorch beasts. They just turned out to really fuck up the wasteland. Nearly fucking kill everyone involved. So the idea that a Death Claw, because there's something in the scene, and I looked back through it, it's implied that the battle turned. Did the Enclave create things? Now, the Chinese soldiers start shooting Coop. And they're very accurate to what they look like. This is also implied that the power armor starts failing. Like, he tries shooting, I guess he misses all of them because the armor is malfunctioning. I guess. And then there's the scene. She walks on top, she's speaking Chinese. She's speaking to her soldiers. This is the future. In a couple of years, our generals will have us wearing stuff like this, and we will make the same choice this man did. I think that's kind of a laugh. And she's about to finish him off. But, see, this is the part where he's, right before he gets shot by the Chinese soldiers, he hears the Death Claw. You hear the sound of the Death Claw. So the sound of the death claw is... that's the size of the death claw, and the death claw then comes up to attack the Chinese. Now, this is a very implies... I'll be very honest, like, Coop's there, but it also implies that the... So, this is how the episode starts, I guess, the devil in the snow. I mean, if it ends on the death claw, so the death claw either smells or sniffs and lets him go. Now, as I said, you have it, and this was in the trailer, we weren't sure what was going to happen. Now, this is where, as I said, this plot is really now, this is where the plot gets super rushed. All right? The middle part of the episode is the Volt part. I find that really stupid. So, Lucy has been brought back to the NCR camp, saved. Now, I think that... please tell me I saved it. See, I was in a rush to do this. So, there's a scene here, and I may not do it justice. Here we are. The past is the past. So they talk about Lucy wakes up 2 days later. She has like a drip. Yeah, we gave you some drugs to get better. So I guess she gets better. And then they're talking about from Shady Sands. And she's like, so you guys are the only ones left? They in fact, even offer her a place. But they talk about it and they go, yeah, somebody didn't like they were starting up. And then someone burned it to the ground. So it's also implied that some of the soldiers know that Shady Sands was blown up. Some don't, some refuse not. But bear in mind, Lucy's father is the one that did it, and everyone knows it. They know it. But, and then she goes, But there's also the line of, yes, I'm in Vegas looking for somebody. The sergeant's like, you're either looking for somebody, family you lost, or someone you're trying to kill. And Ghoul says to Lucy and says, so what's your choice, Miss McLean? That's from the trailer, actually, of season 2. And the scene is, she's very quiet. She goes, I guess it's like your family. And she goes, I'll bring them to justice. And they actually tried to recruit her to the NCR, which she goes, no thanks. But that's when they offer her weapons. By the way, this is literally, I think, for some reason this season, the only time we hear the Fallout theme. 4 episodes in, we haven't heard the Fallout theme. They did it in season 1 to mark importance. I'm assuming they're doing this for this as well. But not for the reasons you think. So, it leaves. Now, The part where it's interesting is she's walking towards New Vegas. She starts having a hunger. Like, oh, maybe they put like FEV in her and stuff. Okay. So the medicine he picked up, I think, in the hospital was Buffout. Now, it's implied Lucy's decision making becomes morally gray because he offers, yeah, so like 5 days, if you don't do anything, you might vomit and get clean. Sure, that will get you addicted. It's not like I'm like, oh, that's not a Dictol. So a Dictol would actually get rid of any addictions, which is the in-game mechanic for it. Now, she goes, fine. She's showing the symptoms of it. Now, this is where they're outside of. As I said, I maybe. Yes, so you have here. This is what you get when you get outside of Vegas. The outside of Vegas, this is kind of how we were starting to see it. Okay, so the idea is we know I have an issue here with so they've taken the path of the courier. The path of the courier is interesting. She also chooses to take the Buffout because she wants to get to Vegas. But this is the sign something is off. Something happened. It's all off. Ghoul offers to go around to the east side, which is Freeside. Now, this should be the strip. Freeside should be on the strip side. Now, a little bit of a lore tip. This is, I want to say his name is Dino, but this is the head of. So she goes down to murder all of basically the people. And she kind of grimaces like the ghoul's happy she's embracing being violent. You see a little bit of VATS combat now, which makes this interesting. And I think this is the head, and I swear if this is the head of the kings. Someone's going to have to correct me if I'm wrong. This would imply that's him. Now, what do I get into first? The very end, or do I get into the shit that's the vault? Let's get the vault out of the way first. And the good, bad, and the fucking ugly. All right. This is very, very damn simple. Hence why I say start off here first. We have Norm. Norm's plot is he has now basically, as I said, he's walking around up there And then he's asked by a guy here. There's one guy that has always doubted that maybe. Yeah, okay, so that's the same image. So now he goes, now that we have found food, what's phase 2? So we know in episode 5 they're going to go to the Vault Tech building in Los Angeles. Okay. He talks with the girl and she says, in her idea, it's only been a week since she walked down a bridge. Now, he's caught off guard by this guy who was Bud's assistant. Now, he talks about a phase 2. And I'm like, oh shit. No, you don't need to complicate the vault plot more than it already is. Now, here, it's more interesting because now you're getting into the vault plot. The vault plot is the water ship is destroyed. I just went in, quickly condensed this down. He's doing a support group for people with a product of potential incest. They've been in a vault. So, Bud's is meant to be unthawed every 31 years. Okay? His initial idea was to have a line of managers that you unthaw, you coach, you unthawed, that would, in theory, create a lineage and you could control the other 2 vaults. Yeah, they did not allow open incest, but they allowed first cousins. So you're going to have some incest or close family. Yes, even in Fallout 3, when they said you might want to open up the vault to some wastelanders. Yeah, our genetic pool is getting bad. Even the Overseer says it in that game. And it's implied in the others they took in random so they can have other people in the gene pool. So, give or take. But he goes to get water. This is the effect of the water crisis. The water crisis is they can't even grow their own crops. They're starting to wither. And you got to remember, these vaults were ag vaults. Now, the concept is you have this meeting that gets caught by like the black snitch from the fat guy who's annoying in the vault. And they're not supposed to be meeting here unless there's an intervault exchange. Okay. It's implied Stephanie she offers a trade for the vault water if you get something from Hank's keepsake. Okay. Begs the question, does she know? Now, later on, you have this happen. Remember, as I said earlier, that kind of irritated me? U.S. annex Canada. I guess that's also and let's insert the reason why she is so evil is she is Canadian. At least she doesn't talk out of the outside of her mouth. And CGH, don't be mad. I'm talking about your people. Even though it's funny. But this was her big secret because she kept this underneath her drawer. I guess the guy who, I guess her hubby or dick she rides once in a while, Chet, basically found it. We'll see what comes of that. That's where the vault plot leads out. Now, I figure I close this out on the Brotherhood. So we know. So I'll just do this at once. It makes more sense than skipping around in the exact moments because the episode plays out extremely autistically and very out of order. Now, this is the level of writing we're having to deal with. Okay? This is something that. So they tracked Xander's one, and they came looking, and. Shit, I should first show this. Thaddeus, they give Thaddeus the option, because, so why do you care that Xander is dead? Well, because they're going to kill the Gould children. They're going to kill the people. Okay, that's the problem. All right. So he asked him to be Xander, and he leaves his broken armor there, Xander's broken armor with a helmet there, and leaves. Now he goes, oh yeah, Golden Boy, you're fucked. Because it's like he has it, like they go, okay. Now, he flat out gets back, admits to Dane he killed Xander. I think Quintus knew he probably killed Xander. Dane realizes there's issues. Maximus tells Quintus, go get the children. This plot basically goes so fast, they're not even trying to hide the fact Xander is dead. The writers must have forgotten that. And he doesn't even do it convincingly. They might, but then again, the Brotherhood's kind of retarded. He's gonna leave. There's also this weird moment. Thaddeus is interesting. Like he's telling him, what's gonna happen if Brotherhood comes in here? They're gonna kill half of them and then recruit the other half. Take your pick. Thaddeus season 1 was the heroic coward. Okay. So, his idea is to kill Quintus. Oh, that's from. This is the scene, by the way, where she goes, we can't be doing free water, but my group's growing every week, and fuck you all. My own self-interests. This was the scene I was talking about. Like, he goes, my snack budget's approved. Yeah, you can take snide remarks. It's like the Vault doesn't give a fuck that there's a water crisis. Hence, why I usually say that's dumb. Dane takes the children, tells her tells them to all the children that are there to basically don't come out till the shooting stops. Well, I keep saying she, but I keep forgetting that male presenting. The problem is she still has that female face, is the thing. Even though she's been on hormones for ages. She is passing, but very like a thin and effeminate man. And it's not a disrespect. She, or he, basically, that goes by. Because, like, that, he's been in other roles too, but it's very easy. It's like, they passing, but then again, the show doesn't really have that. Dane steals a cold fusion. Now, part of this is you have this that plays out. Because this is out of sequence. There's an out of sequence confrontation where you have her plan, or their plan, God, I get days of it, basically goes to steal the cold fusion to give it to Maximus. Quintus gets confronted. This is the scene where we find out it was Quintus that saved him. But he can't go through with killing him. Now, after this, he goes, "Why did you kill Xander?" "To save children, save Gould children." Quintus flips out, says, "It was a mistake to save you." But he also explains to Maximus, "If you shoot me, you may not like my version of order for the wasteland. It might be brutal, but it will bring some order." But I guess he thinks back to his father and think it the better way, the way he found it. Okay. But he can't go through with it. And I guess Quintus tries to kill him when he realized he saved Gould children, and that's pure against the Codex, especially their chapter. And he gets left there. Dane gives him the cold fusion device, and then we get the whole clusterfuck of... But meanwhile, this goes on. There's a scene that happens. The elders come up to Xander, who's walking around in power armor. First, she comes up and offers and says, "Yes, we are not part of this rebellion." Another one offers to get Quintus's head for the cost of 300 fusion cores. Okay. Sure, I guess why do you need 300 fusion cores? You'll have enough fusion cores to last a lifetime. I mean, what's the drain? Everything else. Now, the thing about this is, eventually, the Canyon one comes in. He starts having a panic attack and they want to open the visor. Because, yeah, let us help you. By the way, it's not suspicious that he's walking around in power armor the entire time. The Canyon chapter guy comes in and says the cold fusion device has been stolen. But you don't see the scene that Dane took the cold fusion device. He just finds out till after this. And then she stabs him through the face, killing him. Then the Canyon starts a civil war to finish off whatever, with everyone looking in horror. If you're confused and you start to hate this episode as much as I did, you understand why. Okay. So Xander is slunked away. The Xander lookalike has. And we get this scene. They're attacking the one. Then he's fleeing with cold fusion. Now, the theory is there's a scene where they're talking. He goes, yeah, you met a girl or whatever, and he goes, he's going to go look for her. And that's, I guess, they're going to ship Lucy and him. Okay. Yeah. It's obvious. It's not the worst, but it's very seems forced. But meanwhile, the Civil War is that, so they didn't take anything. Now, I'm assuming he's going back to the plant to get his armor. Now you get to the final part of the episode. The revelation of the strip. Now, this I was curious about. The revelation of the strip. We saw parts of this set when leaks come out about it. About like the other is nightfall comes, they get to the strip. Okay. This is, they see it. They go, he knows something's off. I guess this is Tops, the Gomorrah. This is the section. And I guess they have power because Hoover Dam is still functional. You start to see the Deathclaw come out of the Gomorrah room. Senses them. But people don't get, you start to see there's radiation. And he goes, radiation. And he finds the Deathclaw egg. My what the fuck moment is, how does a Deathclaw get into the strip the gate's not busted down? There's just a Deathclaw there. A Deathclaw comes out of the Gomorrah. Huh. Now, take the retardation of this plot, and I swear if they double down on it, it's going to be painful. Because this makes no sense. So in this area of the strip, if you twist it to say House had a Deathclaw brought to the strip to control it, oh, Christ, dear God on a stick. Now, Lucy is also, I've heard someone say, well, Lucy can't talk her way out of it. Yes, the Deathclaw is the ultimate predator. The Deathclaw is worse than the Sleep Squatch in Fallout 76. It is the representation of the pure bestial form of the wasteland. Now, that said, prior to this, I think please say it, tell me I saved it. So there's a shot, the ghoul actually, the face of the ghoul. Oh shit, I double saved it. Okay, I'm a dumbass. So the ghoul has a face that he knows fear. It comes from, it's a similar face that he makes when he's on the ground, he sees the Death Claw leave. And he's trying to tell him everything is going to be all right. We did enough. And it's one of the few times you ever see the ghoul in pure fear. It's like the first time we've seen it. Now, oh, I fucked it up. Oh, yes, I did. Okay, so it ends with the Camp McLaren, which is the airport being shown. But I'll have to find that screen, go and get those. And it shows the Legion fought the NCR at Camp McLaren. Or McCarran. But that's how I think it. See, next episode is interesting. Because I was in too much of a sticker shock on how terrible. Look, there's parts of this episode I like. But this part is the worst episode I've seen out of both seasons. It's one of the worst. And it's because it's too much info. Its pacing is bad. It makes no sense. Parts are all over the place. One part of the episode should be linked together. And I'm really hoping episode 5 can bring it together. There's scenes out of sequence shots, as I said. Dane should have stolen the cold fusion before putting the children away. Then going to give it to Quintus and leave it. It's just implied. Now, I don't know if it's purposeful out of sequence storytelling, but again, we'll find out next week. From here on out, I am doing one episode a week. One. So now that I am caught up, shortly after, I'm going to be going to have to review stuff with Multi. He wants to review all 3 together. So, and then somehow I'm going to sneak in a game stream. Very long day. Very, very, very long. But I'm probably not going to go. I'll do 4 hours or so tonight. Maybe 5. Be in bed by 2. So, anyways. This is that. So this is episode 3 and episode 4. Sorry for all the screenshots from episode 4, but I did it in a rush. Also, I feel the episode needs work. So I tried to get the couple of the crowning ones, and I forgot a couple. But I'll definitely have it when I do a series review, which is the end of it. So, anyways, till then, I'm going to head over to Multi's channel. He's going to want to review multi-topic tops. And anyways, till then, and I will be back at 6. Hopefully, but I might have to abridge my 1 through 3. Multi does like his stuff more compact. Me, I don't mind the rambling and the side topics. Anyways, I will catch people then. And it's multi-topic talks. I should link it below. But, right. See, he does more movie reviews than I do. I just review what I like.